Hello, welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper. So you're probably all wondering what this ugly contraption is. This is my portable air compressor. This is a General Supply 260. It uses a Willys Jeep motor and a custom head, and it runs on number 1 and number 4 cylinder, and the number 2 and 3 are air compressor. Now, I got to get this thing serviced up because I have a field job coming up in a few days, and we are going out of town to prep a EMD GP7 locomotive for movement. I do a lot of locomotive stuff. I work with a short line nearby and service all of their locomotives and all the air brakes, the electrical, the mechanical on the locomotives. So I do all that work for them. So we're going out of town to get this locomotive prepped for shipment, and we'll get the air compressor serviced up and ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to start it up, warm it up for a minute, make sure it's all good to go, batteries charged, all that. It's been sitting all winter. So make sure it's ready to go, warm it up, and then we'll change the oil. So first thing is I got this valve right here. This is an unloader. Makes starting a lot easier. Run the fuel pump for a bit, get fuel up to the carburetor. It sounds like it's there. Alright, so I'm going to take the hood off, and I'll give you a little history of this thing while I do this. I bought this compressor several years back without the trailer, without the big tank. I added all that stuff, and I bought it from a guy who bought it from the local, one of the counties that bought it brand new in the 60s for sandblasting their bridges. And now this guy I bought it from, his whole business was working on vehicles and sandblasting on the side, and he could not get this thing to work. And when I got it, he had the unloader valve just tore apart. He had the timing way off. The carburetor was totally out of adjustment. It was just in rough shape. So my buddy Pete and I spent about 3 hours, and we got it timed, we got the carburetor adjusted, and the only thing I had to do was find a different unloader valve, because he had taken the original out all apart and took a whole bunch of pieces out of it and just made a mess of the thing. I could only make about 30 pounds of air. So we got it all tuned up and working good, and it's been working great for me. I used it last year to prep a locomotive for shipment, a little GE or Alco switcher that had gone through the GE shops, and they took the Alco engine out and put a Cummins and generator in there, and totally remote control. Cool little engine. So this compressor was kind of instrumental in making sure the brakes were working properly. So like I said, this is a Willys CJ2A Jeep motor, and that is the custom head. And you can see 1 and 4 spark plugs, 1 and 4, and then 2 and 3 got this, this is an unloader valve right here. And there's the air output. Pretty simple design. And in order to do this, you basically have to take, either you need a special distributor cap and rotor, or you just ground out your 2 and 3 cylinders like they did right here. I did have problems with the original starter, and I got this little Chinese gear reduction thing, and this thing works awesome. And when we did that locomotive, that was in Green Bay, it was so cold out that we had to go buy a tank heater and put on here just to help get this thing started. I mean, it was 20 below that day when we got this thing going, or that locomotive prepped, and it was a big job. Here's the oil filter, and I have the filter, and we just got to drain it out. It takes 5W20 oil, original from the factory. That's what they spec'd. So let's get this thing ready to go. Okay, so this is going to be fun. Here is the drain valve in the dumbest possible location. I should cut a hole in the deck here, but I've got a piece of cardboard tube. I can duct it, the oil, to the opening here where my drain pan is underneath. And in order to get at that drain plug, I got to come in this way. Come on. Not a whole lot of room to work here. Okay, looks like I got it loose. Not a very good setup, so we'll be redesigning this a bit when I change oil next time, but right now I'm kind of in a bind and got to get this done so we can get on the road. Boy, that's a long drain plug. And it's making a mess. Yeah, I got some cleanup to do. See, we missed the drain pan. That's the stuff that came out and went on the ground, or on the deck of the trailer there. And so this will get re-engineered before next time. All right, next thing we'll do here is we'll get the oil filter out. There we go. Oh, making a mess. That's the sucky thing about these kinds of filters, is they don't drain back the best. Some of them have a drain plug, this one does not. So we'll have to sop up the oil out of there. I got a suction gun, I'll suck it out with that. Okay, so I got that wiped out the best I possibly could. I wish somebody could tell me why every time you change oil on a piece of equipment, it's got to be a complete and total disaster. I mean, all this heavy equipment, you think they would design it with a little bit of forethought. And there's our new filter and a new gasket. We'll grab a little of our fresh oil and see if I can make a bigger mess. Put a little oil on the gasket here so that it seals. And I don't know if it's so much that you do this for sealing or you do it for ease to get off later. And we drop it in the cover here. And that's done. Okay, let's get this drain plug wiped up. What a mess. I'll get her put back in and then we'll fill her up with oil. All right, let's get some oil in this thing. All right, so right here is our fill and dipstick. Go ahead and wipe that off and see if it says on here. Sometimes they say how much it takes, and I think this is only 4 quarts. I do have a lot more oil than what I have in this jug, so we'll take our funnel and start filling. Boy, it's so clean it's hard to tell. But it looks like we're about at the full mark. There. Yeah, we're just about full. So it looks like probably the rest of the oil I got here. And we want it a little bit over full just because of the oil filter housing. And we are just over the full mark. Perfect. So let's go ahead and start it up and make sure everything's good to go. I don't see any leaks around the filter. Oh, it all looks good. I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in the oil bath air filter next, and then we'll put it all back together and change the filter on the air intake for the compressor, and we'll be ready to go. Now this oil looks really clean, but in the very bottom you can see a bunch of crap, and that's what the oil bath air filter's separating out in the air. So we'll go ahead and wipe this thing out real good, and we'll put fresh oil in it and put it back on. Okay, and I generally use just a straight 30 weight oil here, and there's a line here. I don't know if you can see that in there. It says oil level, and you just fill it to that mark. And there it is. All right, I'll go ahead and put this back on. Tight squeeze in there. Make sure you get the clamp on all the way. All right. All right, so this is the last thing. We'll just inspect it. I do have a spare filter, but this thing is kind of self-cleaning. It, when it unloads, it just kind of back pressures through the filter, so it blows it out. And it's probably well oiled, just from a little bit of oil loss. And actually don't look, oh, there's a hole in it. All right, I will grab the new filter and we'll replace that. Put the rubber washer on there. Well, there it is. The General Supply 260 air compressor is all serviced, ready to go. Today is Thursday, and I wanted to give myself a little bit of time before we went. We're leaving Sunday evening. It'll be myself and the owner of the short line railroad that I work with, and we are going down Sunday evening. We got a hotel, and then we'll get a fresh start bright and early Monday morning. It's going to take most of the day, but this locomotive's been in captive service for 10 to 12 years and hasn't been receiving its normal inspections and stuff that it would on active rail service. So we have to prep it. Basically, we're doing a complete 1104-day inspection on it, which entails replacing all the air brake equipment, servicing the brakes, servicing the traction motors, servicing the gear cases, the wheel bearings, checking out the couplers, all that stuff. We just go through everything, and then because it's going to be dead in tow, I disconnect the batteries, cap the stacks, and just make sure that it's good to go so that nobody tries to start it also. So we will be doing all that work. I don't know if I'm going to film it all just because there's so much involved and it's so time consuming. We'll see how that goes, but I will definitely film the final air brake tests just to prove that the system is working properly and it's performing like a boxcar should in dead in tow service. So with that, I'll see you Sunday evening. So we had a major change of plans. We went down, did the locomotive servicing, got everything we could think of done, and usually the way this goes is you go and you do all the work and the inspector shows up and they will generally find one or two things, and it's guaranteed. So I got to go back down because I missed a couple of things, probably because it was just hot and tired, and I got some welding to do. Not uncommon. Things happen. Things need to be adjusted and whatnot. So I got to weld in some shims in some places, and not a big deal. So I'll do the locomotive video all on its own after the locomotive arrives at its destination. I have dealt with railroads for 22 years, 24 years now. Between short lines and regionals and museums, I've dealt with a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna release that video after it arrives because I've dealt with the FRA, I've dealt with inspectors, I've dealt with all those idiots, and I know how things can go wrong quickly. So once the locomotive arrives, I will release the locomotive video, and I'm going to try to be running one of the other locomotives to go out and pick it up from the interchange. So should be a fun video. So with that, stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed the air compressor servicing. This is a really cool piece, and I absolutely love this thing. It's been handy here in the shop. All around, it's been a great tool. I've used it for a lot of neat stuff. So with that, until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.